Welcome to the 1% Doctor Podcast. What separates the good from the great, the standard from the extraordinary? It's mindset, it's execution, and it's the relentless pursuit of growth. I'm Adam Lamb. I'm your host. Welcome to the show. Welcome back to the 1% Doctor Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Lamb, with a very special guest, a really close friend of mine, awesome doc, doing amazing things. He's got an amazing story. Dr. Michael Maher. Dr. Mike in the house. Happy to have you here, brother. Let's dive in. I know we pretty much have nothing but awesome conversations and have for the last, 18 plus months of our relationship. But I want to dive in and share a little bit about, you and your journey and becoming a physician. And, we'll kind of zoom up to where you're at today and some of the amazing stuff that you're doing. But first, kind of tell the audience, give a little introduction. And then let's talk about what got you into medicine.
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for the opportunity to be on this. It's actually the first time I've ever been on a podcast. So it's kind of a cool thing.
Really? This is like your podcast? Yeah. Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, it's my intro, man. So,
So
Adam and I have known each other for almost 2 years now. Very good friends. And we started working together back in February of 2024. We had known each other for probably about 6 months before that, maybe a little bit shorter, through a men's coaching group. And we just hit it off. And so that's kind of how this whole thing spawned. So, and then in terms of how I got into medicine, right? That's what you asked.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. When did you know you wanted to be a doctor, and like kind of some of the past of like what led up to that?
So it's a very tortuous path. So when I went to college initially, I graduated in 2006. I was very, very confused. I graduated with a degree in exercise science. And part of the reason why I did that was because I had gotten into bodybuilding in college. And I just thought it was really cool. And I wanted to learn more about physiology and about the body. My grandfather was an ear, nose, and throat surgeon. So I kind of knew a little bit about being a physician. And my mom was a nurse practitioner. So when I was growing up, I always remember my mom like having these little anatomy books, and like at the time, and they don't do this anymore, this is so old school, but they were like transparent films where you could see like the digestive system, then you flip the next
So you
transparent
turn the
film.
page. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
That stuff's cool.
And you see musculoskeletal system and
Be like interested in that more
yeah,
today, right?
yeah,
Just like
yeah,
I can totally remember that stuff. That stuff interested me when I was
yeah,
younger. Super cool to see that stuff. Yeah, those are
exactly.
cool.
So at the college I went to, Creighton University in Omaha, Nebraska, where I grew up at the time, like everybody was going to be a lawyer, a doctor, physical therapist. And here I was, just this guy graduating with exercise science degree. And like, I was just kind of confused and nobody knew what to do with me. And so anyway,
Your dad was an attorney, right?
Yeah, my dad was a
So like, there's maybe even some. Would you say there's like some high standards held in that
yes,
family? And your older brother's an attorney, right?
correct. Yeah. At the time, he was in the Marine Corps. He was a Marine officer. And when I was in college, he served in Fallujah. He deployed 3 times and still alive and lives next to me now. But anyway, so like when I was in my senior year of college.
Did you feel pressure of like having to did you get this degree and you're like, what am I going to do with this degree?
Yes.
To like family standards almost, do you feel like?
Yes. Yeah. And some of this, I don't think I've ever told you, Adam, but like at the time, I felt a deep calling to go into the Jesuits, which is like the Society of Jesus, which is a order in the Catholic Church. They're a little bit more, how would you say, more open-minded to many things. And I
Like
went to a Jesuit high school.
Stuff like that. Is that what it is?
Yeah. So I went to a Jesuit high school, went to Creighton, which is a Jesuit university. I was very enamored with it. And when I graduated, I almost went into what's called the novitiate, which is like where you basically start and you're discerning whether or not this is what you want to do. And ultimately, I felt God telling me that, I should get married because I liked girls a lot. And so I decided not to do that route. But I was very confused at the time. I was like, God, man, what the hell am I going to do? Like, I got an exercise science degree and like, I thought about being a priest. Now I'm not going to do that. And at the same time, I felt pressure because, at that time, like with my brother being in the Marine Corps, I mean, we were at war with the whole Iraq thing. And I was like, oh my God, I feel so much guilt. I should go do this. And so I initially started that path and I got out of it. And it was just, I was super confused. I didn't know what the hell I was going to do with my life. Well, anyway, everything changed. Everything changed when I met a guy named Todd Smith, who you and I have talked to before. And he was a very successful entrepreneur. He was a bodybuilder. I think he won the Mr. America or a few different titles. He competed with like John Cena. And anyway, so I started working for Todd. It was my very first job out of college. I worked as a personal trainer for a brand new personal training studio. I loved it, dude. I like freaking loved it because I got to talk to people all day long. I got to know people. There were a lot of professionals, accountant, judges, physicians, like vascular surgeons, I remember. And then, other people who weren't necessarily professionals, people who ran their own businesses, like an affluent crowd in Omaha, right? And these were people that I got exposed to. I like never would have had the chance to otherwise. And I loved being around Todd. He's still one of my good friends and mentors because I was like, God, man, I want to emulate this guy. Super fit, muscular, very successful, wealthy. Everybody loves this guy. When he walks into the room, it's just like electricity, right? And I'm like, dude, I have to figure out how do I become that guy. And so at the time, I didn't know how I was going to do that, but I kept working and working and working, and we developed a really good relationship. And I enjoyed my time there. And slowly over time, I began to feel this like desire inside, like, man, I kind of want to do something more. Like I want to do more. And I wanted to do more education. And I'm like, man, like, should I become a physician? And I was training with like orthopedic surgeons, vascular surgeons, OBGYN, psychiatrists. These are people who would come in and I would like work out with them at the studio. And so I just asked them, hey, can I come shadow you? Right. And something else is kind of important for the context. Like my grandfather and I, we had a good relationship, but he was kind of a hard guy to talk to. And I think we both wanted to connect, but we kind of felt this like, I don't know, edginess with each other. And so I couldn't always talk to him about these things because he was kind of old school and was like, man, you gotta be a physician. If you're not a physician, like your whole life's gonna be terrible. Like making me feel this way as like a young kid and like, I can do all kinds of stuff and be successful.
Right.
So it was a
Yeah.
story that wasn't true that I basically like took on, right? And it went deep into my subconscious. And so I always kind of felt like deep down I was kind of a failure because of that. Like I don't talk about that a whole lot, but it really kind of affected me.
Well, you're a physician now, though, but
Yeah,
so
exactly, man. And so part of it was I kind of felt like maybe I have something to prove, but at the same time, I'll never forget him saying like, look, if you're going to go for like medical, don't go to nursing school. Don't try to be a paramedic. Don't be a PA. Like be king of the jungle. Like be a physician. I'm like, okay, all right. Like, wow. And so anyway, I slowly started observing these docs that I would ask if I could come shadow. And I just made the mental decision. I'm like, you know what, man? I'm going to be a post-bac student, meaning after I graduate, I had to like go back and take these pre-med courses because I didn't do them the first time. And so I was like, there's a high chance I may not get in, but you know what? Screw it. I'm doing it anyway. I didn't really calculate the cost. I was just like, let's go. So at the time, I had to wind down my schedule as a personal trainer and a spinning instructor from full-time to part-time. And I entered the University of Nebraska, Omaha, which is a public school in Omaha. And I was paying for it now. So like, I had to kind of figure it out. And it was a fantastic school. And dude, I studied my tail off. Like I studied like I never studied before because I'll never forget the admissions lady at the University of Nebraska Med Center where I really wanted to go to school because my grandfather went there. It was like, Mike, you're post-bac. You didn't have a very good GPA in college. If you don't get all A's, you're not going to get in. I'm like, oh my God, dude, there's like no,
what was your GPA when you graduated college?
I think like 2.9 or 2.8, I was like a B guy, B like C, that kind of guy. I worked hard, but I just wasn't focused. Like I didn't have a burning
B
desire.
guys get to hire the A guys.
Exactly.
I was like,
C guys run the
a D
company.
guy. Right.
So then anyway, so like long story short, I kept on this track doing all these pre-med courses. I think I took the MCAT, which is like the entry, to get in, which I hated that test. I think I ended up taking it 4 times. It just sucked, but I had to do it because I had to get a better and better score. And I wasn't like a very good standardized test taker, but I learned that was the game. Like, okay, I have to get better at standardized test taking. And it's not so much like the core knowledge. It's like, how do I answer these questions to get in? I was kind of playing a game and I knew that's what I was called to do. So I just had to figure it out.
Yeah, and here's the reality. There's a lot of physicians that are killer test takers.
Yeah,
They're amazing, gifted at information retention. But when it comes to the real world of practicing medicine, listen to a patient, asking
exactly.
really good questions to uncover things, they suck. But and then that limits their ability to go do really to help people at a full
Yeah.
capacity to
Yep.
think outside of the box, right? And I hate
This
to
is
say it,
100% true.
but
100% true.
it's true. And those guys never can build a business. They can never because they're like, I need to know the right answer. No, you get some stuff you got to figure out, some stuff you got to ask. You actually have to ask questions, right? They're like, give me the question so I can show you the answer that I know, right? Well, it's like you actually have to flip it and you have to ask the
Yeah,
questions, right?
exactly.
It's
Right.
wow.
That's 100% true. I mean, those people probably should be in a research lab, and that's
Correct.
great. We need those people. But
Yeah.
I always kind of knew, like, man, I want to be a clinician and like relate to people and talk to people. I don't want to be doing like research papers and laboratory crap. That just wasn't my thing. I just knew it. So anyway, so I finally applied. A lot of rejections, and it's hard to get in. I mean, I don't know what the stats are, but I think like less than 5% of people like end up getting in their first time, right? So like the deck is stacked against you.
I've
And
had friends. I actually had a friend of mine, a female friend of mine. She applied and identifying as like a lesbian
yes,
just to try to get in. She changed her social media to look like it was just her and this like good friend of hers. I'm dead serious because it's that hard because with
it
DEI,
is.
all these other things. But she's like, how am I going to get in?
Yeah,
I gotta be somewhere on part of the community to get in and do stuff. Yeah, I was like, that's crazy to do it.
it
She's like,
is, man. I mean, I have buddies too that like, I mean, I've talked to several of them, but like, if you're like a white guy, I mean, I know I'm probably gonna get in trouble for saying this, but like, it's sometimes it can be a little more challenging because you don't have that minority status. And I definitely encountered that. I never said anything because I knew I'd be crucified for it. But like I definitely encountered it. And like it's hard because you're just trying to like do what you feel called to do and you're willing to break down any barrier possible.
and when
But I'm
when it
grateful for the
comes,
adversity.
I want the best physician, right? Like I always use an example. I had an old white guy when I had to get my neck surgery done. I had artificial disc replacement, an old white guy to do my neck surgery. He's like, hey, we're going to do a fusion. I'm like, no, I don't trust you. I had the African dude, black guy, African guy from like Ghana, who the moment I met him, his confidence, when I was like, yeah, I was like, I don't care what you look
Exactly,
like.
dude.
I want the
Exactly.
best doctor, right? And
Yeah,
so I think that we should always look for the best candidate in any,
exactly.
right? I want the best, right? Or the person I connect with the most. I don't need to know that what their sexual preference is. It's insane,
Exactly, man.
right? And
Well, and
so
I mean, to piggyback on that too, one of the things that's really frustrating, and I don't know if people who are listening to this are like pre-med, but I had a guy that I took under my wing, like in my current practice, and he was kind of in the same situation that I was in, like as a pre-med, and like was really struggling to get in, like worked as hard as he possibly could, and just barrier after barrier after barrier. And I kind of helped him, and we navigated through this, but like the thing that sucks is if you don't have like a fantastic GPA or a fantastic MCAT score, you're kind of like second class when it comes to getting interviewed, which is not fair because they don't look at the other human elements like, does this person actually want to be a physician or did their daddy just tell them to do it?
right, do they care about people? Can they solve
Yes,
problems?
exactly,
Are
man.
they good listeners? Are they
Yeah,
empathetic, passionate?
100%, man. And fortunately, like the osteopathic route, which is what I went with, DO, because I just like their route better. I think they're better for a lot of reasons, and if you want to get into that, I'm more than happy to explain. I'm very passionate about it, but they're expanding at a very high rate as compared to the allopathic schools because they think bigger, in my opinion. It's not like the old guard. So anyway, I appreciate when people are willing to do that. And the last thing I'll say about this, part of the reason why I have a heart for this and like helping people is because like when my grandfather, even as difficult as our relationship was, and I love the guy to death, he's passed away now, God bless, but he sat on the admissions committee for the medical schools. because he dealt with similar crap that I went through in terms of getting in. And he wanted to make sure that people had like an actual equal chance
That's
of
awesome.
interviewing, not just like test scores, not just like all kinds of stuff that goes into it that really isn't fair. And so, for me, I've never wanted to be on an admissions committee, but I feel called to like help people who express the desire to do it because it's an authentic, like burning desire to move the freaking needle and like make impact that God's calling them to do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be something, down the road as you, achieve different levels where you're part of giving back, you might be called into the admissions world.
I know, man. Yeah. And my guy, like, I'm so proud of him. He got into medical school. He just started in Montana. This is his first month. I think he's taken like his first 2 tests. So, I'm keeping track on him too. But it was so cool. We were so happy for him as a business. We all celebrated him, and we got real close with his family, and like they were very, very grateful. It's such a cool story. This guy's parents own 7-Elevens. They don't have anybody that's like professional in their family. And I mean, this guy was working from a young age, like seeing how a business runs and everything. I mean, such a unique like background to become a physician and be able to relate to people from the bottom of the rung to the top of the rung. I mean, it's beautiful.
It's awesome. Yeah, and he'll
Yeah.
probably do really good. It's
Yeah.
and forever he'll be grateful for your
Yeah.
guidance and belief and
Yep.
in at the beginning.
Yep.
So let's talk about like after you made it through medical school, or is there, I don't know if there's more details on that you want to dive in. And then how did you choose like physiatry, right? Like,
Yeah.
so, and I guess, that aligns with your bachelor's degree, right? A little bit. There's some connection in that. Most people don't even know what physiatry is. So I'll let you
Right.
explain that. And
Yeah.
then from like picking your path to like, where do you go from there? You start your own clinic. Yeah, like some of those things. And so you had to navigate those things too. So talk about how you picked your path in the physiatry space and like what you had to deal with through that.
Yeah. So this is where it gets real tortuous. So my medical school is AT Still University in Mesa, Arizona. And the first year, all 110 of us went to that school. And then they're attached to what's called a community health center, which is kind of for like lower income, kind of a safety net, kind of medical type facility. And they had 11 different sites throughout the country that you could get dispatched to. Well, I really wanted to go to New York. The reason why was twofold. Number one, at the time I wanted to be a surgeon. They had a surgical residency program. So if I went to that place, the likelihood of me getting in was like favorable. At the same time, the year before I got into medical school, I got married to my wife. And the first year of med school, we didn't live together because she had a good job in Omaha. And basically, we cash flowed med school through her work. So I lived on freaking beans and rice in medical school and just grinded it out. Tried to spend like nothing, right? So that kind of created a scarcity mindset, which we've worked on, which we'll probably talk about shortly. But anyway, second year, we move out to New York because we got accepted there. And we were very excited. It was the first time I got to live with my wife. She took a job at TD Ameritrade, where she was already out working in Jersey City. We lived in Brooklyn, and I worked in South Brooklyn. So I was at Sunset Park. I was there for the second, third, and fourth year. And I exposed myself to a lot of different things, wanted to learn a lot, did this fantastic training going from Nebraska to New York City. I mean, it's just like,
I'm like,
I mean, yeah,
hey, how are you today? To
yeah.
get the F out of my way, right? Like it's just different.
So yeah, I learned to carry a stiff upper lip very quickly and not take people's crap. And at the same time, like you saw a lot of stuff that you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this is like real. Like we had a guy he literally landed, he flew from Saudi Arabia to New York City. And I don't know why, but he went into the ER in Sunset Park and he had a DVT, like a blood clot in his leg. I'm like, dude, why the hell are you here? Why aren't you like Lenox Hill or NYU? But it was stuff I got to see that I'd never get to see otherwise. So it was really fantastic training. But anyway, ultimately, I decided that I wanted to pursue surgery, but I didn't like how many hours orthopedic surgeons were working. Like literally, no kidding. And these were the residents too, so keep that in mind. These were the guys that were gruts that were working their tail off. First in, last out is the motto in ortho, right? So I'm not kidding. They would get there at 4 a.m. and they wouldn't leave till like 11 p.m. or midnight that night. And then they'd come right back the next day. And I'm like, dude, I mean, I respect the hell out of these guys, but I don't know how the hell I'm going to stay married and have a family and do this. And I just made the mental decision that I'm like, I can't pursue that. Plus my grades, they weren't good enough. Like ortho is freaking hard to get into. I mean, you got to be like really, really intelligent, man. Good test scores, all that stuff. But anyway, so I met a guy, his name was Dr. Zwerling. He was an ophthalmologist. That's eye surgery, not optometry, but ophthalmology. That's like an MD that does eye stuff, right? And I like got into that. I even did like a mission trip in Mexico with these guys who were doing cataracts. And I had this whole vision of like doing cataract surgery in these rural communities. This is going to sound crazy, but like I was going to buy a semi and like build 2 operating rooms in it and like do all this stuff. And I had this whole vision, man, right? Because like where I grew up, I was
Because
in a city in
like
Omaha, but they had some like,
it can sound stupid, right?
yeah,
Oh, that's cute, Mike. But at the same time, here's the deal. There's maybe docs listening that like you need to have some stupid, crazy vision ideas for something to actually land. Right. Like I
yeah,
was joking. I had like 5 business ideas that I thought were the greatest things since sliced bread until I actually launched my first business. Right. But if you're unable to dream and think and consider that stuff, like you're in trouble. You're
exactly, man.
out of the box. You've never shared that with me.
I know, dude. It was so the
And
way that
yeah, it's cool though.
so
That's
the
cool.
way that it spawned was I did what's called a shadow rotation, and like that's basically where you go to a place that has a residency and you're a pre-med student, but you're kind of like showcasing who you are, like how hard you can work and do they like you. And it's basically a 4-week interview. It's a really good idea on their part. So I went out and there was a place in Tulsa, Oklahoma at Oklahoma State University Medical Center. And I'll never forget, I met the surgeon who, and between 8 a.m. and 11 a.m., did 37 cataract surgeries. He had 2 operating rooms. And he would just pop back and forth. Like it took him, I don't know, 6 minutes, I think, to do a cataract. And I had seen cataract surgeons like, dude, I like this. This is fantastic. I just thought it was so cool. So anyway, that's how that idea spawned. Cause I'm like, oh my God, I could take this like semi truck out to like different towns and just pop, 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 and like help these people. Cause sometimes they have a tough time getting out. Well, anyway, fast forward, I'm interviewing for ophthalmology residencies. And if this is super hard to get into, this is like plastic surgery, orthopedic surgery level. I was definitely like ahead of over
I
my
had
skis.
right
Ophthalmology.
ophthalmologist.
Ophmalogy. I probably
Dr.
misspelled that.
I had one on my podcast a few weeks ago.
Yeah, super cool specialty, man. Like
And
the eye is complicated.
he does a lot of cosmetic stuff. He's got an office in LA and an office in
Yeah, he's
Vegas.
oculoplastics. Yep, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, I interviewed with some of these ophthalmology residencies, and I told them about this idea that I had, and I just never forget them looking at me like, dude, we don't know. Like, who are you, man? Like, you're weird. Like, just kind of like awkward. Like, I could just tell they weren't feeling it, man. And I was like, damn, this isn't going to work out. Well, sure enough, it didn't. So I was the only person in my med school class in New York. There were like 10 of us from that original 110 group, right? That I was the only person who didn't match in the residency program. But in order to do ophthalmology, you have to do what's called a traditional rotating internship year. So it's like your first year, right? You're like the grunt, the guy that's doing everything everybody hates, like digital rectal exams, like urinalysis, blood draw. I just all kinds of crap, right? So fortunately, I matched in one in Coney Island Hospital. Now, if anybody who's listening has been to like South Brooklyn, Coney Island is a rough place, but it's a great place to train if you're a kid from Omaha, Nebraska, and you want to kind of develop a tough skin and like learn how to function autonomously. Because when I started there and just graduated medical school, I'll never forget my very first month as an intern. I was in the emergency room, and like the attendings that I was working with, like just didn't have the time of day for me. Was that because they were jerks? No, it's because they were so freaking busy. Like they were overwhelmed. So I learned very rapidly how to like look up stuff on my own, talk to the chief residents, like become very resourceful in a situation where there were like limited resources, right? And I became this thing. And a lot of the guys and gals that I was with in there were these foreign docs, right? Like they were from foreign countries. A lot of them were physicians before, but unfortunately they have to go through the US medical training system. So they did. Super smart people from Nigeria, India, a couple of other places I don't remember, but like fantastic exposure. And they became like my family inside the hospital, and they kind of looked out for me. This white kid from Nebraska, I just stuck out with a sore thumb. But anyway, the training was great, and I like got exposed to all kinds of different stuff. And at the time, I knew about physical medicine rehab, PM&R, also known as physiatry, PHYS, not psychiatry, even though I feel like an orthopedic psychiatrist sometimes, but I'm not.
Right.
But it's physiatry. And so we deal in the realm of like physical problems, which I'll get into in a little bit. But there were a couple of different docs that were doing that. They were doing both clinics, outpatient, but also inpatient. And in the hospital setting, I thought that was super cool because they're taking patients who had like congestive heart failure, spinal cord injuries, like, multiple polytrauma where, like, let's say they're on a motorcycle, they get ejected, they have head trauma, they have a spinal cord injury, multiple fractures, surgery, all kinds of stuff, right? And as the rehab doc on the hospital side, you're basically facilitating and kind of quarterbacking the therapy teams, which is speech therapy, physical therapy, and occupational therapy. Also working with the social worker to make sure that these people are situated when they leave. And then your job is to make sure they're medically stable to participate in the rehab and like optimize the hell out of that so they don't have to come back to the hospital. I'm like, dude, this is great, man. This is like right in alignment with being a personal trainer before, like exercise science, kind of like bodybuilding. I'm like, man, these people are like building themselves back up. This is cool as hell, right? Well, in medicine, even people who are listening, like probably physicians, they're like, what the hell is PM&R? That nobody knows what it is. It's so obscure, but it's been around since 1920, and it's kind of a very unique niche. So we specialize in restoring function and preventing regression. So you can
Mm.
already hear how that is in total alignment with exercise physiology, personal training, bodybuilding, like being a self-starter, this kind of thing. I'm like, dude, I love this. It's like totally in alignment. So rewinding back to Coney Island internship year, the match comes up. And I'm like, all right, am I going to apply for ophthalmology again, or should I go for PM&R? My backup was to do family medicine, right? Because I could do family medicine. I thought about that, but I'm like, I kind of want to be a specialist. So anyway, I did a lot of interviews. It was during internship year. I'll never forget. I had a couple of nights where I was up for like 48 hours because I had to work and then go to interviews and come back to work. And like, it sucked. Right. But anyway, I ended up getting my first choice, which was a very prestigious academic university called Barnes Jewish Hospital, Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri. If you're from the Midwest, it's like the Harvard of the Midwest. Okay. You're not, most people don't really know about it.
Yeah,
But
never heard.
anyway, I got in there, man. And I was like, dude, this is fantastic, man. I'm going to get out of this place. It's kind of a hellhole. And like, it was great training, but I'm like, man, I want to do something bigger. So anyway, I had family in St. Louis too. My aunt lived there and then my cousin. And so it was great. It was just, it fit like a glove. And the people who I interviewed with like really understood me, understood my passion. Like we like this guy. Right. So I really think God just opened the door by who I interviewed with. And it was this gal named Dr. Prather. We just like hit it off right away. She's a fantastic person. Anyway, I got in and that was 3 years. So I spent 3 years in St. Louis. At the time, I already had a 1-year-old because we had that in internship year, top of everything else. And then we had another kid while we were in St. Louis and met a lot of great friends. That's how I met Christian Morris, who who you interviewed on this podcast. Awesome dude. And Christian and I became very good friends, like very, very close because we thought the same. Very business minded, very entrepreneurial, kind of outside of the box. And the training was really good. You did about half the 3 years on the hospital side and half of the time outpatient. And outpatient includes like musculoskeletal injuries, neurological injuries. So we train with neurosurgeons, orthopedic surgeons, neurologists, even the neuromuscular guys who could be a little obscure. And then we were doing like these electrodiagnostic studies, which I hated doing. I still hate doing them, but basically where you can diagnose like a brachial plexus injury right here or a lumbosacral plexus injury.
Is that when you're hooking them up and zapping them,
Yeah,
basically? Dude, that's
exactly.
the worst. That, I don't know if I shared with you when I had an injury and I was at
Yeah,
like peak bodybuilding.
yeah,
And this kid was probably someone like you, was like running. He had to like run me on the thing and he kept zapping me.
yeah,
And I was like, I can feel it.
yeah.
But
It
it's like,
sucks, dude. It
well, but
sucks.
And they're like, yeah, you respond. I'm like, listen, let me tell you a story. I was like, last week, this was before my injury, I could dumbbell press a 150-pound dumbbell. This week, I can't press a 50-pound dumbbell. I know, because this kid was he'd never seen someone that looked like me before. Imagine like 135 pounds shredded, right? Like I look like a freaking monster. There's this young, like Indian kid, like a little skinny guy, and he just keeps like zapping this thing. And I'm like, dude, I'm gonna snap you in half. I feel it. It hurts. 'Cause he couldn't understand it, and I was like, "This is like freaking torture." So, it's funny, I'm glad to hear that you hate giving those
Yeah.
tests, and I think
Well, because they
everybody
don't make people feel better, man. It's not therapeutic. It's like
no,
diagnostic, right? And
he's like,
it's
"Yeah."
important,
He's like,
but
"You're
it's
responding." I'm like, "You're gonna
yeah,
respond to my fist in a minute if you
yeah,
zap."
exactly, man.
But it
So
was
so
it
anyway,
was
so
injury.
back to St. Louis. So St. Louis was an amazing experience. I'm so grateful. And the other thing I learned to do was I learned to work with the hospital administrators. And I say this respectfully, but just from an observation standpoint, a lot of physicians are really whiny because they don't understand how business works. And for some reason, I was able to bridge that gap, understanding from being a self-employed personal trainer for a while too, but also having the desire to understand the business side of medicine. Like, okay, here's why it's important that we keep the beds full. Here's why it's important that we try not to send these patients to the ER because of the cost that it's going to incur to the building and the hospital, right? And just some various other things. And instead of like complaining, I tried to understand why. And when I understood, I'm like, oh my God, oh yeah, this makes total sense. So if I understand both the medicine and the business, I can become like super effective and like razor sharp and like really help a lot of people.
Invaluable.
Yeah, yeah, tremendous value. And I'm like, dude, I want to be that guy. So
Yeah,
I
so when you can
started
understand
becoming this person.
the medicine and the money, right? Like, that's kinda
Yeah,
the
that's
big divide.
important, man.
Like, "Yeah, I just
And
wanna
here's
practice."
the crazy thing. Here's what's crazy, Adam. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. I'll never forget this like sticks with me. It's so like loud in my mind. I'll never forget asking some of the attending physicians I was with. Well, like how much does it like it how much does an epidural pay out? What about if you use like ultrasound and a trigger point injection? How much more does that pay? Or like how much is an admission at the hospital like total? And people would just look at me like I was like an alien. They were like, "Why are you asking these questions, man? Like we just send that over and they take care of it. We don't need." I'm like, I think you need to know because it hits the bottom line, and that's how you like get freaking paid, man. Like you need to understand that. That's
Yeah,
important, right?
yeah,
But nobody taught it. And I'm like, dude, this is like fundamental. Like you have to understand this stuff. Because if you don't, then what can end up happening is you become one of those physicians that either gets taken advantage of and just works for somebody else and gets underpaid for how much they generate. Like they only get 1/3 of like the 3/3 they generate, or you become like very resentful and like whiny, and then when the hospital administrators are trying to explain stuff to you, you just whine about stuff. And I'm like, man, I don't want to be that guy. Right. So that's kind of where a lot of the genesis of where I'm at now began. And then when I finished residency, I thought, oh well, I'm going to take a fellowship in interventional spine. So doing like a lot of injections, like epidurals, facet joint injections, spinal cord stimulator implants, all kinds of stuff, right? Well, Morris and I, who I referenced earlier, began to talk about this a lot. And he was going to go work for this company. I won't name them, but he was going to go and work in skilled nursing homes and do PM&R consultation services, basically helping with pain management. So he moved to New Mexico to do that. And I kind of thought about it. I'm like, man, should I do that? Should I do a fellowship? Well, long story short, after I'd done a lot of things, I decided I wasn't going to do a fellowship because I was ready to go to work. I didn't want to keep being in school. And, I was ready. And so I moved out to Colorado. And the reason why I did that was because my brother lives here. My brother and I are very close. He has 4 little boys, and we had 2 kids when we moved here. Now we have 3. Our son was born here. And so now all the cousins are together. Right. And it's just, my brother is my only sibling. So we always talked about being close together. So that was the main driver for moving to Colorado. And so I live in Colorado Springs, fantastic area. Anyway, when I moved out here, it was during the pandemic. So that was 2020. And it was just an absolute dumpster fire, man. So my original plan to work for that same company that Morris did I came out here, basically they overpromised and underdelivered, and I basically got thrown under the bus. And I had 2 little kids at the time, and I wasn't making like more than, 5 grand a month, man. It was just pitiful. Right. And I just felt like a complete failure inside. And I'm like, man, what the hell am I gonna do? I don't
Because
know
like all
anybody here.
like all this school, you're a doctor now, you've spent all this time, and it's like now you're
Exactly, man. And I'm like, God, I turned down a fellowship at Vanderbilt University, in Nashville, which would have been beautiful. But I decided to do this. So I'm like, all right, you know what, man? I'm not gonna be pouty. I'm just gonna like buck up and I'm gonna figure out how to do this. I ended up taking a locum tenens position where I would do in-home health evaluations, Colorado Springs. And this is during, COVID. So everybody's wearing like 4 masks and, just everybody's paranoid. I'm like, well, I gotta make money because my family's dependent on me. So this is what I'm doing. Right. Some people were kind of like, they criticized me and everything. I'm like, well, this is what I'm doing. So I did. And I was an independent contractor. So again, I was kind of like, oh, this is cool. I'm self-employed. I like this.
you're 1099.
Correct. Yep. And so then my brother, who's an attorney here in Colorado Springs, told me about a guy by the name of Tim Hall. Tim Hall is a physiatrist working outpatient. And he had a practice doing like the things that I wanted to do, which is doing like workers' compensation injury, personal injury, like all the outpatient stuff. I didn't want anything to do with the hospital site. So anyway, my brother told me, he's like, you should call this guy. So I did. And I'll never forget, man, we met up for lunch, and some people you just like connect with like instantly, man, kindred spirits. And we had so many things in common. And at the time, he told me that like after we kind of talked for a while, he's like, I'm sick. And I'm like, I didn't know what that meant. I just met the guy. I didn't want to be disrespectful, so I didn't ask him anything else. But he asked me, hey, can you do EMGs? Those nerve studies. I'm like, yeah, I can do them. He's like, well, I don't like the lady I'm sending to right now. So like, why don't you buy a machine and move it into my office and I'll just start feeding you cases. I'm like, oh my God, this is great. I get to start doing physiatry again, right? I'm not just doing like in-home health evaluation, which I hated doing, but I'm like, I got to make money. So I did. So I dropped like 20,000 on my own EMG machine. Fortunately, it's paid for itself now, but I moved it into his office. I had my own LLC set up, so I never worked under him. He just fed me cases, and we became very good friends. And I kept doing.
You were W-2 with him at the time?
No, I was 1099. I had my own company.
Oh, gotcha. He hired your company.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
See, a lot of docs don't even think of that. Like, you don't have to stop thinking you got to be an employee. You can own your own business as a doctor and still work kind of like an employee, but it's more lucrative because that machine, for example, you get to write that off as a tax deduction, right? Like your travel or vehicles, or there's so many things that actually you get to go and write off now as a business. Most docs have zero clue it's a possibility.
Exactly, man. And so I started doing that. We became very good friends, and he told me about some like different courses I could do to get certified to do like workers' comp, occupational medicine stuff. So I just did everything this guy told me to do, right? And I did it. And then over time, he began to tell me like about his like diagnosis because I mentioned he was sick. Well, turns out he had stage 4 colon cancer. He had done everything under the sun. This guy was previously super fit bodybuilder guy, and it's just sad, dude. He's such like a light to the world. And anyway, I'll never forget, man. We worked together for probably 3 months. He sent me a text message and he's like, hey, come meet me in my office. This was like Monday at like 11 a.m. I'm like, oh my God, man, this guy's going to tell me to get lost. I can already feel it, man. And you and I talked about this. I have a tendency to interpret.
Gravitate to the negative outcome versus
Yep, exactly. So it's been around for a while. Anyway, I met him and he's like, Mike, I have to retire for medical reasons. Do you want to take over the practice? I'm like, dude, I have only been out of school for about a year now. And like this guy was like well known in the community, especially with attorneys that we would work with. And I'm like, oh my God, man. Like this door just opened, right? I didn't do anything. And he said, we're not doing a financial exchange. I just want you to take over and like take care of the people.
Wow. That's a blessing too. I mean, what a blessing.
Huge, man. Oh my God, huge, man. I mean, it was
But
like
Because of your integrity, your work ethic, right? Like you showed up, you didn't like that
Exactly, man.
opportunity. And if you were a bonehead, he wouldn't have offered that.
Exactly. And I think you could see the hustle that I had.
He might have been praying for someone like you to come along. A lot of people forget, like someone might be praying for the position you actually are
Exactly,
looking,
man.
right,
Yep.
to go fill, right? You never
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. And so the thing that's crazy is I took over like literally the next week. And our plan was to work together for about 3 months, getting to know everybody. Well, that got truncated down into 10 days because he had to go on hospice and he died like 3 weeks later.
Wow.
So I became an accidental owner and I inherited 2 employees. I'd never had any employees, right? And I had to figure how the hell am I going to keep this airplane up in the air, man? You know me. I was like, I'm not taking out a loan to do this. I'm going to bootstrap this thing and I'm going to figure it out. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I'm not going to go. And so I did. And I kept doing the locum tenens thing. I would see all the patients. I mean, dude, I was working 7 days a week for a time. And I was doing everything I possibly could to just scrap and make this thing work. And
And
this
so what year is this? Is this 2020
this
still
is
or
2021. Yeah, it's like July of 2021, man. So I'd been out of residency for about a year.
so I want to talk about because you and I obviously so you and I work together one on one. We talk about you know obviously we spend a lot of time building the future of what you're doing. We've worked together for the last 18 months or so. And so what I think is awesome is how you paint this picture. So like that's 2021. And if you look back, you know, you're making 5 grand a month trying to figure things out, take this practice over like in a flash, due to, circumstances, but, and you give them this opportunity. And I remember you and I were talking about this. If we look back, so it's 2025 right now. So it's 2021. And you wanted to look back and you looked at some numbers, like from a financial standpoint that I remember you read off to me, which was pretty awesome. Share some of that of like, cause you're thrown into the fire, right? You're
Yeah.
thrown in the, hey dude, not only are you kind of on your own, cause like the guy you mentor, maybe you got the guy you're kind of following behind, unfortunately passed away. You got to run the clinic. You don't want the thing to sink and fail. You got a family to support, 2 kids or 3 kids at this time or two,
2 kids at the time, yeah.
and probably a wife that's soon to be pregnant. And so then when you're looking back at this where you're at today, what like talk about like that financial thing that you shared with me, which
It's
was
oh my god, it's insane, man. I just before we did this podcast, I was curious. I wanted to know. I'm like blown away by the numbers. July 2021. This is no kidding. This was the gross revenue. 10.5K. So $10,500. That was what I made that month.
In July of 2021, 10,000. Right.
Yep. And I had 2 employees, so I basically didn't pay myself hardly anything. I just kept paying them because that was the agreement I had with Tim. Then fast forward a year, I did a good job. Made 44,000 July of 2022.
So
Then
yeah, you 4x'd it. So 2022, July 2022, you look back and it was 44,000.
yeah, so I was like, oh man, I'm doing okay. Like I was good.
Okay.
It was
Yeah,
just
you're on
me
track.
and
600 grand in revenue.
yeah, exactly, man. And then fast forward a year, July of 2023, we made 50,000 that month, right? So a
So
little incremental change, not much.
2023, you went up by about 10 grand per month, which would put you on track for like, you're going to clear 600 grand.
Yeah, roughly, man. So that's it's pretty good, for your like second or third year out, right? Now, this is when Adam Lamb comes into the picture, right? So we met each other through Wake Up Warrior. Adam comes into the picture in February of 2024. We agreed to start working together. We actually met and talked in
Yeah,
like
prior to
December
that.
and January.
Yeah,
And
built a relationship, talked, and like in just friendship, you sharing a lot of like the things you're challenged with, things dealing with, even business and personal. And then you and I talking, and we're just kind of like, and I'm like, hey man, I'm opening up this coaching thing for doctors. And you're like, sign me up.
I think that was like your first or second person, man. It
Yeah,
was like very small. I remember
yeah. It was early in the game
it
for
was, man.
the physicians I was coaching. Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
exactly, man. So I was like, yeah, this is great, man. Because like when I met you, I was like, oh, dude, he's very intelligent, sharp looking dude, muscular, like very like successful dude. I could tell. And I'm like, I like this guy, man. Kind of like the same thing with Todd Smith. I could just like, and same thing with Tim. I have like this thing where I can kind of like read and tell. It's just a gut feeling. It's God. He's definitely prompting me, right? But anyway, that's how it was. It was a leap of faith. Because I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I want to spend this much money, and am I worthy to spend this much money on myself? And just all these like stupid stories that had me chained. And now let's talk about where we're at now.
Yeah, so that was 2022, 50 grand. You
Yeah.
finished July. So July, because we're looking back, timestamp July 2022, 50 grand. And then what'd you do July 23?
And then Adam Lamb comes into the picture, and then we fast forward to July of 2024, and we do 115,000.
Yeah, 113. So doubled. So now you're into the
Yes.
six
Over
figure.
double. Yeah,
Yeah,
over double.
you're
By
into the
60%.
6-figure a month club.
Yep, exactly. Then we fast forward another year, and we're in and it's August as we're doing this, but my
So
most recent financials are from July. We did 240 last month.
that's amazing, dude. And
Yeah,
that's and I
fantastic.
thought it was awesome. And it's all obviously it's all your work. I'm just helping you make decisions faster. But I think looking at it and thinking, you went from a 600 grand a year clinic practice to basically you're on track for a $3 million a year practice. And all the things we're working on, you're going to have a $6 million a year practice in 2026, right? Like the goal is when we see the thing of like, oh, I don't know, can I double my practice every year? Yeah. Yes, you can. If you're willing to let go, right? You have to
Yes.
let go of a lot of things. We have to step into new things and change perspective of things and stuff like that. Like you mentioned, well, let's take another step back. When we go back to when you got into the business, you had 2 employees, right? How many people are like under your stewardship today?
16.
Right. Well, there's another part because a lot of people say, oh, I don't want to have to deal with all those employees. Then you're not going to go do what you want to do. You want to make $250,000 a month as like your own boss as a physician, right? You're going to have to get some people to do some work for you. Right. And
Exactly.
you're a great leader. And so like, what do you think some of the biggest things you've learned, like personally and professionally, that anyone listening that could be like, dang, I want to do what Dr. Mike did.
So I think the number one thing, I used to hear this a lot, like get out of your own way. Like that's a very sanitized, like nice way of saying it. You and I would use some more colorful language that makes more sense to me.
Mike, sometimes you gotta just get out of here. No, you're not gonna hear that from me. I'll punch you through
So
the Zoom call.
here's the number one thing I think, man. I think it comes down to this. It all comes down to this. I'll never forget Garrett and I talking one time, who you and I both know. And I'm like, dude, how did you go from a PE teacher to a guy who's like doing what you're doing now? He looked me point blank in the eye, didn't even like flinch. He's like, I made a choice. That was it. I like made a choice. And I think about that conversation so many times, even the times that you and I have talked and you've called me out. And God, I'm grateful, man. At the time, it was painful, man. You and I have gone to bat a few times, but that's a good sign of a good relationship and a
Because
good coaching relationship, right?
oftentimes we have ideas. There's a
Yeah.
difference between an idea and a decision. An idea you can sit on for your entire life and go to your deathbed. A decision you can't. A decision requires you to move, right, into a certain position. And that's like I said earlier, like you've done all this work. I've just helped you make decisions faster. Right? That's a
Yeah.
lot.
Well, and I think that the other thing too, beyond having the choice, making the decision, I'm choosing this path. Well, how
Yes.
are you going to do that? How long is it going to take? And like all these kind of things.
Yeah, that's all
Who
God.
gives a rip, man? Like
Yeah, it's all up
God
to God.
doesn't, yeah, he's not going to give you the whole blueprint, man. You've got to commit the first step, man. And then you get the breadcrumb method of things being open and open and open, right? But I think that the other thing that kind of dovetails into that is the secret sauce is consistency. You have to become like a whole nother person where, like, if you say you're going to do something, you freaking do it. Now, does that mean like if you try to schedule a meeting with somebody and they can't make it, that like you're a failure because you didn't get that meeting, whatever? No, but you took it on yourself to like initiate it. So that's the step you take, right? That means you're taking action, which means you're consistent, which means you gain momentum. towards doing the things you say you're going to do. And I think the analogy that I like to think of is like, I'm the tip of the spear for God. So if he tells me to do something, for example, take this pre-med student under your wing. Okay, God, I got you. I don't know how this is going to look. I don't know if this dude's going to get in, but you know what, man? I am going to like shred through things to help this guy open doors. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to take this guy under my wing. I'm going to expose him to stuff that I never got exposed to. Wait a minute, you can be a business owner and a physician at the same time? You bet, man. It's a lot of fun
Well,
too.
and here's the thing, a lot of people misunderstand it. That's biblical. The Bible says what you do for others, God will do for you. Right. And so when we think of like how we live our life, if we live in scarcity, we don't give, we're scared, like, oh, I don't have time to help this person, or I don't have time to do that. Like, okay, that what all you're doing is telling God that you're going to be too busy to receive whatever he'd like to give to you.
Yeah, exactly. And he's giving you an opportunity to catapult to even further levels of abundance. Because the other thing I've learned from working with you, Adam, is like, it's almost analogous to like a farmer, right? Like you plant seeds and then nothing happens, nothing happens, nothing happens, nothing happens. And then 6 months later, holy cow, dude, look at that has been produced now. Look at the crops that have
Yeah.
come
And
up.
then you're like, now I got to get a bunch of people to help me harvest
Yeah,
all this.
it's fantastic, but it all started with the choice to say yes. Yes, God, I'm going to do this because you're prompting me, even though I'm scared as hell. Like, I don't know if you've seen that new series called The Story of David, but there's a before he goes and fights Goliath, when they're like, "Are you not scared?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm scared, but I'm going anyway."
Yeah. 100%.
Right. And
Yep.
like, I think about that a lot. And I'm like, okay, even when I look back at like, being a free med student, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get in, but I'm like, I'm going to go anyway. Right? What if it doesn't happen? Well, okay, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. You move on to the next thing and you become a successful dude, regardless of you're a physician or not a physician. And I never used to think that way, but now I do. Right. And so I think it goes back to the choice that's so critical. It comes down to consistency. And when I say consistency, I mean like every day. So you know my routine. I mean,
Yep.
I stack for an hour, I'm writing. It's oxygen for my soul, right? It's like my metabolism for abundance. Like otherwise it would just overwhelm me and I
If
would
you don't have a morning routine,
yeah.
you're already dead. You got to,
Yeah.
your
And I'm
morning
talking
routine.
to God. Hey
Yeah, if
God,
your
this is
morning
where I'm at.
routine
This is
is
what's
hitting your
going on.
alarm clock, you're dead.
Yeah.
And so it's like being consistent, but you talked about being consistent in all areas of life too. So it's like, because how can I trust myself to build this business if I can't trust myself to not work out, or I don't eat what I say I'm going to eat. Don't do, because I mean, that's some other stuff too. I think when you and I started working together, you were like 20 something percent body fat. And now you're 11% body fat. You're freaking shredded. Your wife's all over you, thinks you're hot, gives you more compliments than you can even like handle. Right.
Yes.
But it's like there's this whole new version of ourselves that gets created when we make a decision to go. And there's a lot of times on that journey that we get faced with a new decision that, like, I don't know, it's kind of scary. This sounds tough. Like, am I the guy? Is someone else? And it's like, well, you can stay there or you can decide to go. Right.
Okay, so I'm gonna encapsulate what you're saying right now. I had a conversation with an attorney on Friday. He called me because he needed some help on this case, and we just got talking. We're kind of like friends. He's like super easy to talk to, right? I actually like enjoy talking to these guys. Anyway, he's got his own business, right? His own firm, and he's like, "Hey man, do you like know any other attorneys right now that like would want to come work?" And so that kind of opened the conversation. And I told him about some of the stuff we're doing. He's like, "Dude, you're like blowing up." I'm like, "Man, if you only knew like how much I have invested in the last 3 years to get to where I'm at, like it's probably north of $200,000." I don't say that to brag. I'm just like, that's how
Yep. Yeah.
I am.
Right.
And now what's happened is my business at a minimum conservatively has quadrupled in revenue. And I have 4 different businesses running simultaneously. And it's like when I look back at them, even a year ago, even 2 years ago, I'm like, "Dude, there's no way." But I just kept stepping forward and moving forward. And God kept saying, like, okay, I'm going to give you more because you've proven to me that you can do this. If I can trust you with a little, I'm going to trust you with a lot more.
Yep.
Right. And I,
You're
and I
proving that
always, 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 I think of this conversation that my father and I had before I started medical school. We were in New York City. We were at Grant Park. And he was very proud of me because I got into medical school. I was the first doctor in my family. Like, it's this whole thing, right? He's a small guy, a small town guy from a little farm in Iowa, right? He said, Mike, to much who is given, much is expected. So I think about that a lot. Like when I'm stressed about making payroll, which we've talked about, some of the other stressors, like, can I keep doing this? Like this kind of thing, right? But I'm like, dude, God has given me so much. Why would he set me up to fail? He's not going to set me up to fail. This brain just keeps moving and it keeps picking up speed because I'm an impact maker and that's what I'm called to do. And the other thing that I've learned from you, Adam, especially for physicians who are listening, you got to check your ego. Here's why. Because there's a lot of mid-level providers like nurse practitioners and PAs and even some junior docs who can do what you're doing. My God, that hurts my feelings. You mean somebody else can do something I can do? I thought only I could do that. Well, the truth is there's a lot of other people who can do it better than you can and get
And get higher satisfactory scores. I mean, remember that when we were like, well, I don't know if I
yes,
can let go of that. And it's
yeah,
like, hey, the satisfactory scores actually went up. So
exactly.
you
Imagine,
let them go see the patients, you do the oversight, and let's go build this other thing over here. And realizing like, oh wait, I let go, I get to make more money, patient satisfactory scores go up, I have more of my time back, everything makes sense. My
and
ego was what wants to keep you stuck. And like, and that's one of the first things I have to do with docs where I've had success with those, just smash their ego if
yeah,
they have, because their ego is the enemy. It's going to keep them stuck where they don't want to be, but they need someone like me to come along and say, hey, look, I've already done all the stuff you've done. I didn't go to medical school. I'm not a doctor. I respect all that. But if you want to go make lots of money and have a great work-life balance and live a life of your dreams and also own businesses in the medical space, I figured it out and I can show you a way to do it faster. Right. And sometimes they just have to get that ego smashed a little bit so that they are able to let go and go, okay, I can trust this guy. Right.
so it goes back to the conversation I had with the attorney. You're like blowing up. And I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, this is what I've done. He's like, yeah, I mean, that's a really good idea. You know, us attorneys, we just think we can do everything ourselves. And here I am now, I'm still in the same position. And I don't say that out of disrespect, but I'm like, it's an observation. Right? Yeah, I mean, I think about it sometimes like, oh yeah, Adam's not a doctor. Why should I listen to him? Well, because like he's proven himself to me, right? Like before we worked together, dude, I knew it. It was a visceral feeling. I knew it was God prompting me, right? Do this, Mike, do this, Mike, do this, Mike. And I'm like, okay, but he's not a doctor. I don't care. He's going to open up doors for you that you can't see, and you're going to multiply your impact as a physician because to whom much is given, much is expected. So I need you to get over yourself and remember you're not like, the next DeBakey. Like you didn't invent like the heart surgery or the transplant. Like you're Mike Maher. You didn't have like a 36 MCAT. Remember that, dude? Oh yeah, I
Yep.
remember that guy.
Yeah.
But here's what you do have. You're a physician who is an entrepreneur at heart, who has my own heart, and you're also willing to like bust through anything that gets in the way of what I need you to do.
Yeah. And you have a heart of gold. You care about people. You love people. You want to serve and do the best, which God's going to reward that too. I think it's
And
one thing too is like you've probably spent a couple $100,000 on personal development in the last few years. So have I. But when we look at those investments and we think, wait a minute. So, okay, maybe I spent a couple $100,000 but now I'm making a couple million. And like people don't see it, but it's this belief, the faith of like, I'm going to plant seeds. And then there's the discipline and the obedience, which you talked about, of actually going to I'm still going to go work the field every day, even when I don't see anything sprouting up. And then the biggest problem I'm going to have is when all those crops start coming to fruition, like the promise, I'm going to have to go find some people to help me do this harvest. And then I'm going to have to figure out how I buy more land, which is like open up more businesses, take over more areas so I can go take this thing. There's no reason the next couple of years you don't have a 10 plus $1 million healthcare empire doing things way better at a higher standard than everyone else just because you made a decision.
you know what's really cool, man? I think about this. I had a mid-level who came to me and said one time, "Oh man, I just talked to my girlfriends last night, and they're still at the same clinic we are at, and it's just miserable. I love working with you." I'm like, "Really? Like, wow, that's like really nice. Like, can you tell me why?" Because you like let me be me and let me like be autonomous and like you just let me do what I'm trained to do. I'm like, well, why wouldn't I do that? Well, I just never had that experience before. I'm like, well, kind of made me think like, yeah, I don't look at them like a unit of production. I look at them as like, how much impact can they make? And at the same time, like, I'm taking on the risk of paying them, so I should make more, right? But I'm also a good steward of God's resources because it's his money ultimately,
Yes.
right? And so I think about that sometimes, but I also think about, I always wanted to like make impact. I always thought about that, even when I wanted to go into the Jesuits. Like, how do I make impact? And now I look at this and I'm like, dude, I have right now on staff, we have 7 mid-levels. And I'm like, dude, that's 7 times what I could do independent.
Yes.
Why the hell would I not do that?
Yeah.
And like, think about how many more people I can help. Think about how happy these mid-levels are because they're getting paid really good. They have autonomy. They're not burnt out and they love talking to people, man. And patients who are at the hospital, I mean, especially at the nursing homes we work at, it's not the most nice facility. It's kind of negative. They need somebody who has some freaking energy that goes in there and
Yeah.
just like pumps them up, man.
And that leadership and culture starts from the top, and you
It
built it.
does,
But
100%.
a lot of that's been built because you've had to deal with a lot of adversity, which is awesome. I think it's a great way to kind of wrap up the podcast today is, sharing a story of adversity, which is leading to prosperity and impact, right? So you made a decision, you dealt with a lot of challenges, well, physical side of the world, or even those challenges in the mind, right? To get you to a place where you're at today, where and you're just getting started, right? It's the thing we talk about all the time. Every single time we have a little success story, I'm way better at focusing on the things you got to work on than the things that are working. But like, and it's like every time, hey Mike, we're just getting started. Hey Mike, we're just getting started, right? And it's exciting to see all the stuff that you do. You're, beyond being like a really close friend of mine, but when it comes to like the guys I work with, you're like, can I say, like, my favorite student. Even like my admin knows anything Mike needs, the answer is yes. I don't care when he wants to talk to me, what time, what he needs. And it's just because you do the work. I know that it will never fall on deaf ears. I know that if like you need me for something, I'm all in because I know you're going to go do something. And guess what? I get the gift of being a little bit of a part of your impact too, right? Like, I want to be connected with change makers, world changers, impact, people that really impact the world versus just a bunch of people that are out chasing money. That doesn't interest me. We have money. I could be just fine and not do anything, but I'm interested in life change for other people and, myself as well. And so listen, man, I love you. Thank you for being on the podcast. I think you shared tons of wisdom for listeners, whether you're a physician, entrepreneur, or just need to check yourself. Dr. Mike's got a script right there for you to follow.
Yeah, and the other thing I would say too, Adam, if you have somebody who is entertaining the idea of working with you or a business coach, I'm always happy to talk to them and share kind of like the nitty gritty. But man, I will tell you, it's not so much a matter of you investing to like make more and acquire more crap. What it really is about is like internal expansion, right? It's about who you become in that process. And when you talk about like how you have to smash the ego, let me just tell people who are listening. I mean, you know this, Adam. We've gone to bat a few times. It hurts. It feels like a kick in the pants. It does not feel good. And you feel like isolated sometimes. And yet that like darkest time is what catapults you into like the greatest light you can possibly become. And if that's what God is calling you to do and prompting you to do, I'm telling you, like working with a business coach, especially you, like, I mean, you're my favorite, of course. So I'm gonna, promote the hell out of you, but like it is a catalyst to make the impact you want to make. Could I do this stuff on my own? I'll never forget you and I talked about this. Could you read your books on your own? Could you do this stuff? The reality is, yes, you could, but it would take you a decade. So why not just pay it? You have the money, do it in a year,
It's
and then you
speed
have
and
9 more years
accuracy.
to prosper.
Right, right. It's speed and accuracy, but it also goes back to the seed and harvest.
Yeah.
And I had a young doc that signed up with me, and he's like, "Well, I bought this rental property. You know, I'm thinking I'm kind of wrestling with this. It's like, I'm paying to work with you, or maybe I could put that money towards that investment property." I said, "I got one question for you, and your answer is going to determine what we do." I said, "What is going to make you more money, the investment property or you?" And he's like, "Well, me all day long." I was like, "Okay, well then therefore, who should you be investing in? Or what should you be investing in?" He's like, myself. I was like, all right, we start Monday. I'll see you. Have a great weekend. Right.
And the reason why, Adam, is because you're the number one asset.
Yeah. You're the number one
You're
asset.
the number one asset, man. So
And
you need to invest in yourself.
Yeah.
Like,
and when we start trying to give power to everything else, you know, we remove that power that belongs to us to be the number one asset.
Yeah. And it's not asking for like, oh, I need me time. You know, I need to invest in myself. And that's not what it's about. You're about to invest in something that is painful and it's going to be tortuous. And there are going to be some times where you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm scared as hell. Do it anyway and move forward. And you will be amazed by what happens. Yeah. I mean, quadruple, man. We haven't even worked together for 2 years.
Yeah. We're 18 months in and you're doing $250,000 a month versus 50 grand a month. That's 5X, bro. And so that's when you think about and like I said, it's going to be more than 10X next year, right? Because when we look at the trajectory and we look at the performance, I mean, where you went to one business that did a bunch of different things to now it's like 4 different companies, you know, half this stuff runs without your time. You go on, I mean, you're on vacation almost every month. I feel like you're taking time, more time with your friends.
I never work weekends anymore.
Yeah, like all that stuff, right? And so there's so many things when we look back in the details of it. You know, I pay attention to it as coach. Whenever if you're getting into a slumpy place, I get to pull the mirror up and say, hey, dude, look, you're ripped. Your wife thinks you're the hottest dude ever. You go on vacation every month. You're making 5 times more money than you've ever made in your life. You shut up, keep going. Okay, see you later. Good pep talk. Right? But you're doing the work. Sometimes we just have to be reminded, which I think a lot of times a coach can just help do some of that stuff. All right, we're gonna wrap up. Dr. Mike Maher, one of my best friends, my number one student. You get in the Adam Lamb test score, you graded 100%. I work, and you're just so fun to work with because you get stuff done, and like I get to be part of your impact, which is just a blessing in itself. And you're an awesome, powerful man of God, which I love and value the most. I thank everybody for tuning in and checking out this episode of the 1% Doctor podcast. Please make sure to like, follow, and share every episode with your friends and family, and maybe send it to a doctor friend or maybe just a friend who wants to be inspired to what's possible, especially after listening to this powerful story with Dr. Mike Maher. I'm Adam Lamb, your host. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the 1% Doctor. Please be sure to subscribe to the show where you're able to consume more podcasts, get more value, and learn more about doctors potentially just like you. Please tell a friend, review the show, and we'll see you in the next episode.